Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Friday review of apps. My name's Reto, joined here today by Fred, and
Hello.
just off camera we have our Keg Droid. So we'll be introducing him or her a little bit later.
Guest.
Indeed, a special guest in the audience.
Special guest.
So today we're going to kick off and have a look at a few apps. In particular, we're looking at vocab++, Weatherwise, Beautiful Notes, and Handy Scanner. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So we're doing that for about 45 minutes, and after that time we'll be replaced in the studio by Dan and Ian, who are going to check out some games. If you want to have your app reviewed by us in the future, there's a moderator page that you can add your nomination to, and we'll go through and pick the most popular ones each week and check them out live during the Hangout. We've also invited the developers of each of these games as well to join us, so hopefully they will be able to come on board and provide some sort of real-time feedback as to why they made some of their decisions and respond to some of our suggestions. All right, let's kick off. Let's have a look at vocab++. That's the first app that we've got today. So I'm going to fire it up here on my phone. Take the phone off the camera while I unlock it. All right, vocab++. Excellent. All right, straighten that up. Okay, so right off the bat, it's a decent looking app. We've got kind of a nice UI metaphor here of almost sort of white pieces of paper over a desktop, which looks pretty nice. Overall it's got kind of the right feel. It looks kind of like an action bar along the top. We do have the menu button of shame. So down the bottom here you can see that we have a menu button and it doesn't do anything, which is double the shame. So there's actually no purpose to having that there. And given that you're already using sort of the ice cream sandwich styling, you can just set your target SDK to 15 and that will magically go away. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit more. Let's have a look. So we'll have a look at study mode. So right off the bat, you'll notice that when I press that button, there was no indication that it was being pressed. If I have like a finger down here, you can't see anything that's happening. So this is bad, particularly because it tends to suggest that the accessibility stuff hasn't been enabled either. So you want to make sure that this whole app is navigable using a D-pad or a trackball or anything like that, and so that if people who are vision impaired are using the app, that they can use it as well. So right off, you should make sure that that's all in place, and in particular, make sure that your tap targets show when they're being selected. As we go through, it looks pretty good. Again, it's the same sort of metaphor. Let's have a look and drill down into SAT. Actually, I'm going to go back and choose one which we haven't seen before, GMAT. Oh, try one more. Okay, so it downloads the word list while we're waiting, which is a little bit annoying, but I guess I can see why you wouldn't want to pull down all of the word lists every time. And that's kind of the right way of doing it, I guess, because there's nothing you can do until the words are there. You may want to consider sort of parsing them in real time so that you get the first word comes up straight away and you just continue to parse stuff as it goes. So that's one thing to consider. Okay, so now we're looking at words, and so this is obviously for learning vocab.
I remember those words.
Do you? I wasn't born in I didn't go to school in the US, so I never had to do anything like an ASAP. It's always been an interesting concept. They got the view pages stuff happening here, which is quite nice. It's quite slick, and then you can click show image, and it gives you an image to illustrate what the word is, which is quite nice. I did find a bug though. If you have the image displayed, just go back here, and you see there's this randomize button up the top here. If I click that, it's interesting. I was having it displaying the same image every time I hit random, but apparently that is not always the transient bug. All right, so watch out for that.
For the developer, if you're listening, try to look for that. Yep.
So you can see that.
There you go.
I'm getting lots of different words, but still the same image, which is now default. So if I keep doing this, it could be quite funny. See, autonomous, self-governing, and that was a picture of the whole car.
Right.
Then maybe. Okay.
One question I have as you're playing around with this app, Reto, is that next to the randomize icon, the other icon is not that obvious to me.
It really isn't clear. Yeah, it's this weird sort of 5, 6 kind of off-center icon.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Couldn't figure out what it meant.
Let's see what it does.
Press it here. And it displays this little slider along the bottom, which I figured out that if you drag the slider, try that again. It runs through them really quickly, which is kind of an interesting piece of functionality, but the icon definitely didn't make it obvious as to what that was. It's also got another nice little touch here. If I press the button for speech.
That's a nice touch.
Exactly. It pronounces it for you, which is nice. Yeah. And there's another button here which will do the dictionary lookup via a browser. Now, it might be nice to embed that in a web view rather than kicking you off to a separate page, given that it should just be a dictionary definition. But that's kind of a little bit arbitrary. One thing that I did notice is that overall, you kind of got this action bar looking thing up the top here, but then you've got these extra 2 buttons on the bottom, which is a little bit confusing, particularly because these buttons on the bottom are significantly bigger. So you might be better off just sort of redesigning it to look more like a standard action bar, so that in this case you would have all of the actions along the bottom, so sort of a split action bar style. So that's something that I would definitely consider doing. Also, you'll note that the icons particularly the ones on the bottom, you can't really see it on the camera, but they're quite low res. They look like they're small and have been sort of pushed out. So that's something that I'd definitely take a look at. Yes, one other thing I wanted to point out is that the home button up here, so you've got the app icon and sort of the title, and it's entirely redundant because the icon already has the name of the app, so it's vocab++, vocab++, which you don't really need. And you'll note that if you actually press this, it works kind of like a back button, in that it's scrolling backwards through the view pager, which is definitely not what you want. So that's not desired behavior. This should take you back up in terms of sort of application navigation. So it should take you to the parent screen rather than to the last thing. And in fact, view pager really shouldn't maintain state. So pressing back should never sort of undo moves through the view pager. And what's more confusing, so if I hit this at this point, I would expect it to go. So if I hit this icon, I would expect it to go back to the sort of title page, which is
the dashboard, sort of.
Yeah, the dashboard layout. And what happens instead is it does that reverse. Now, if I hit back, which should theoretically take you to the same place, I get this screen.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about this a little?
Yeah, I do. For the viewers, you probably can't read it really well, but the gist of it is that, okay, we're working really hard on this application, but we like to get compensated so that we can fund more innovation into this application. So please have a look at our apps.
Yes.
And okay, I get that. This is a free app, a very reasonably high quality application, which is free, which is great. So I understand the motivation behind this, but as I am going through this, I try to sort of dismiss this, but there's no way for me to sort of go through this screen without actually having to go into the advertisement.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you have to press back again, and it does.
And press back or actually click on the ads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So generally speaking, it's great to have ads. That's an entirely feasible way of generating revenue for your app. But it tends to be pretty poor practice to try and push people to interact with them. And I think, in fact, in some cases that may be against the terms of service.
Right.
So just be aware of that. Put the ads on there. Put them in a way that's not too annoying, and people will click on them if they are relevant and usable. So try and get away from pushing people in a particular direction. So again, similarly here. So in terms of that navigation, again, I've got the icon and the back button. And if I hit the icon now, nothing happens, but I'm not at the home screen of the app. In fact, that's one layer further up. So if I press this here, I would expect to go back to that first sort of home page, which had the options to to study or whatever. If I hit back, it takes me there.
Right. It looks like the developer for vocab++ is online.
Oh, Ravish, are you online?
Ravish, hi.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, just having some problems with the Hangout API.
Okay. We can see you and hear you, so this is great news. Okay, so that was pretty much all of the main comments that I had. So yeah, I mean, maybe now's a great opportunity to tell us a little bit about, what do you think about what we've told you, and are there any particular bits that you'd like to share with us?
Okay, so I didn't really get to catch much of it. So about the ads part, which I joined in at,
Right.
the reason I did it was primarily to make sure that the ads aren't coming when the person is studying. So it's one of those cases where there's not much interaction with the ad. It's kind of annoying to have it there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the advice and probably have a back button there so that people can skip it, so that they don't actually think that the only way to get out of the app is clicking on the ad itself.
Sure. I mean, the other
Right.
thing which you may want to consider is, if we have a look at it on the phone at the moment, you see you've actually got a bit of white space at the bottom of each of these.
Yeah.
And that may be a better place to put a banner ad, so that when they're not actively studying, they get the advertisements, but it's not sort of, you don't want that ad interstitial as kind of a bad experience.
Yeah. And also for the most part of the app, especially within the flashcard area, people have the tendency to swipe through the various cards, and on that particular page, maybe you can also make that swipeable so that people can dismiss that particular page if they may not be interested in that ad.
Yeah.
So something for you to think about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
But otherwise, it's a nice app. It's really simple. I like the simple UI, the ability to just sort of flick through things. It satisfies a particular need. So yeah, definitely a great start. And I think just a few bits and pieces that I think can help make that experience a bit better. It's a shame that you missed the beginning. We are recording this, so you'll be able to check it out after this.
Yeah. Thanks.
Did you have any specific comments on the tablet?
So yeah, why don't we have a quick look at the tablet version. So I just unlocked the screen, and let me go back to home just to illustrate this. I tap on vocab plus, and then it switches into a portrait-only mode. Which forces the users to sort of rotate their device while using the application.
So that's something I'm again working on. Like, I'm changing the layout around a little bit so that it can use the landscape thing. It was one of the things that in the beginning I want to focus on one kind of experience, which is why I went with portrait only.
Right, understand that. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a resource issue. So it's good that it's on your radar also.
Yeah. And the experience it's reasonable, right? You can still use the app, so it's probably better not to block it off explicitly.
Right. Right, and my other comment is that, okay, out of these 6 icons on the lower right-hand corner, the Y only 101 words, and then you talk about, okay, you need resources to source the vocabularies and so on, and therefore you can only work on 101 vocabulary per category, I guess. So I think from a user standpoint, it may be more useful to have more vocabulary under one heading versus having multiple headings and each only have very limited number of vocabulary, which is
so again in that case, what we're primarily seeing is where the traction really happening, which tests are people more interested in, and taking that into account, we'll probably start adding words more, focus more on those tests.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's definitely the way to go, is to to try and focus your attention on where people are using it. It'll be it's definitely a good approach.
Right. Just curious, are you also using some sort of analytics toolkits for you to get insight into how users?
I'll be using Flurry. I'm using Flurry.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Very nice. I also wanted to mention, while we if you could go back to the the main page there, so you can see that in this layout, it's sort of using the traditional, I think we used to call it dashboard style, and that's kind of going out of favor a little bit. And in this case, you can kind of see why. So you've got these 6 items, but the reality is there's only really 2, maybe 3, which are sort of the primary actions which you would expect people to be using every time that they use the app. So study mode, revision mode, and pinned words are sort of your key categories, and the rest would quite happily live in an overflow menu. So what you might want to consider, for ICS devices at least, is to have basically start off in whatever you think the default mode would be, probably study mode, and have a spinner, like a drop-down navigation on the home page, which lets you choose between sort of study, revision, and pinned words, and then in the overflow menu have email developer, FAQ, and share app as menu options.
Okay. So again, in that case, we're adding a few more things, like we're adding a bit of gamification to it. We're adding a few tests here and there, spelling tests. So it's for that reason that it's currently in this format. So
Okay.
Later on, you don't know what way the people want to use it and the users.
Cool. That makes sense. All right, brilliant. Was there
yeah, I guess one last comment is that in the study mode right here, there's a bunch of cards, and on the action bar, the menu items, looks like you intended to have both the icon and the description, the text.
Yeah, that's an issue with the previous version, yeah.
Okay.
That on the tablet, it writes the text, but it's not visible, yeah.
Yeah, all right, yeah. So anything on the, for most things on the action bar can be customized in terms of look and feel and color. So pick some color combination so that it's obvious for the users. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had one last comment as well, which I kept forgetting to mention, is that given that you are creating something which is for study, for education, I remember I had some conversations with some other developers building similar sorts of tools. And so this may be one situation where I actually advocate going into full screen mode while you're in some of these. So particularly for study and revise, you want that to be an immersive experience where people aren't getting disrupted. So usually I'm a big person for saying don't go in full screen mode, don't take over my phone. But for something like this where you really are supposed to concentrate and not let other things interrupt your flow, it may be a good idea to consider going full screen in that circumstance.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for building it out. It'd be great to see how
Thank you so much.
And maybe we can take
Thank you
another
so much.
after you've done some more improvements.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ravish.
All right, so we're going to take a look at Weatherwise next.
Weatherwise.
I believe that we have Chris from Weatherwise online as well. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, I'm here with RJ and Pat also.
Hey guys.
Hey guys, where are you guys based?
I'm sorry?
Where are you guys based? Where are you coming to us today from?
We're from Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay. Nice, cool. Thanks for dialing in. All right, Weatherwise. This is a weather app, and I've got it here on the on my phone. If you want to switch to that, Ian, and it's a nice looking app. I have to say, it's really pretty. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Tells you what the weather is. Gives you a weather forecast. As well as a location, and as you can, I don't know how well you'll see this, but as I rotate the camera, the actual foreground and background parallax to show, which is kind of a neat effect. I quite like that. It looks nice. It's pretty simple. Doesn't have a menu button of shame, which is always nice. So thanks for that. You've kind of got these buttons along the bottom, which are kind of an interesting choice. Usually we recommend doing something like having tabs along the top or some sort of navigation, but I think given the overall UI of this app, that doesn't really make sense, right? You don't want to have anything which takes over too much from the natural UI. So I think in this case, I think that's reasonable. I think that's a reasonable approach. Yeah. One comment that I did want to have is that the touch targets on screen, they're not obvious what is touchable and what's not touchable, and they're actually a little bit small, so I'm not quite sure how big they are. So a standard touch target on Android should be 48 pixels height minimum. They feel, like if I have a look at these, the forecast for each of the days along the side here, they feel like they are a little bit smaller than that. They're a little bit tricky to touch, sort of get obscured by your finger when you try and touch them. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You can see as we click each of the different days and the forecast changes, we get like different backgrounds and stuff, which is all really slick. It's nice and fast and responsive, which we really like. So let's see, if we click through here to the hourly details, it gets a little bit more complicated, but not necessarily in a bad way. So again, it feels here like the pixel rhythm is less than 48. So if you check out the design guide, you'll see that the pixel rhythm, so the height of each of these list view items should be about 48 pixels, mainly for the same reasons. It's easier to click things. It's easier to sort of view them and differentiate them.
Well, there's an action bar on this particular screen.
There is an action bar here,
cool.
which is nice.
Yeah.
So we've got standard settings and those sorts of things here, which is excellent. You may want to consider on the app icon when you're in that mode to have that. So it does bring you back to the main page, which is right. You may want to actually display the up chevron there to make it a little bit more obvious that that's what it's going to do. But otherwise, it's kind of the right implementation. I also like if you go into the theme store, you can buy different backgrounds. You're kind of our in-app purchase monetization guru. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Paul?
Yeah, so let's have a look at the tablet, the same app on a tablet, which is the same, which has the same look and feel, but in a magnified manner. So
it actually looks really nice.
Yeah, to carry on Rato's point on theme store. So let's have a look at your theme store. What are some of the available items? Okay, so for the first thing, I have to switch back to landscape mode. So you have a bunch of available themes for sale. They look quite nice. And then if you tap on one of these, Lost Robot, priced 99 cents, it gives you an overview of the design. And let's try to go ahead and install the theme. Okay, it brings up a Google Play in-app purchase dialog box. Oh, whose credit card is it?
That's not fun.
All right. Yeah, but it's a great implementation of in-app purchase, making it very an immersive experience for the user to purchase additional value-added items. In this case, themes that are available for Weatherwise. Yeah, I think the implementation is quite nice, actually.
Yeah, it's nice and smooth.
Okay.
I was going to say, so you've also chosen to go full screen with yours, which is kind of an interesting choice here. Now, I can kind of see two use cases for this app. So if I've got it sitting in my dock at my desk, then going full screen makes perfect sense because you just kind of want it to be decorative. But at the same time, if this app is kind of going to be open for a bit, I don't want it to obscure all of my my incoming emails and that sort of thing. Now, I recognize that you're trying to go for something that's really pretty, kind of a wallpaper type effect. But I definitely want to have that as something which is an option. And one of the traditional ways of doing that is if you touch the screen, then it will bring back in your status bar and that sort of thing. So that's something I definitely consider is give me a way to get my full screen back and maybe don't default to that full screen behavior. And similarly, the startup. Now, as I recall, when you start up, it asks you to put in a zip code for where you are. Which is fine, but you may want to default to the current location, which I know is something you can choose to say, like, I think if we go to My Places, I think this is how it starts off with this screen, but with blank. So you may want to start off with the current location and then give people a way to add more places that way so that the startup experience, rather than this empty white page, is a page of your theme, of your beautiful theme.
Oh, there's a splash screen.
There is a splash screen, but it's really quick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
I may let you off. So I'd be interested from you guys in particular. The artwork, is that something you guys have put together yourselves?
Yeah, that's me. I did most of the illustrations.
Oh, great.
Very
Good
cool.
job. What's your name again?
RJ Haluka.
RJ.
Yeah,
Good job.
It looks really nice. And it's a really clever monetization strategy as well, because it's something which people will pay to be able to get things which look pretty and different things which look pretty in different ways. So I think that's quite a creative way of being able to value add on top of something.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that on the tablet I have added a few other locations. Bangkok, right? Okay, let's have a look at the tablet. So
nice.
I added Bangkok in Thailand previously. So it's raining over there, obviously, and you have this nice animation reflecting the existing weather condition, which is quite
really
nice. Yeah.
And I guess it's at night too, right? So that's
It
into
is.
the darkness.
It is. Yeah.
So how many variations are there for each of the different backgrounds? So obviously day and night, but how much further do you go?
Well, there's probably about 20, I think. We have
Wow.
It even calculates sunset too. So if you have sunset and you look at it at a certain hour, it will be in sunset. We have fog, rain, thunder, snow, sleet.
Impressive.
And there's night and day variations for everything. And
Right.
also there's animations that are based on wind speed too. So if it's really windy, the particles start to slant a certain way to let you know that the wind is going in a certain direction.
That's cool.
Very cool.
So in the in-app purchase preview, we only saw one screenshot. Is it possible to show more than one preview for the users?
I guess we could do that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to
definitely.
add, so that I have a feel of what's gonna be like after purchasing.
Definitely, because the thing is, like, anytime you're using it, you're probably only going to see one or two of your 20 different animations. So I think it would be really useful to make that more obvious to people
Right.
in the purchase flow. I haven't looked at the Google Play listing. Do you have like YouTube videos and things showing people the different variations and the slick animations?
We have a few, I guess, on each one of the themes has its own area now, or no?
So we have a couple images for each, but we don't have videos or anything off right now.
Yeah, and there's a website that we have that does have, it actually breaks out every single condition into one sheet so you can see everything at once.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's nice. I would definitely consider putting in some YouTube videos as well, because that visual effect, the smoothness of your animations and the way that all interacts is actually really compelling. So that's something you should really try and put front and center as a way to get people really engaged. But it's nice. We had I'm not sure if it was a pointer or a question from Ian, but have you guys got a live wallpaper implementation for these as well?
It's one of our most requested features.
Nice.
Right, I think we can at least plus one,
V2,
possibly
V2.
plus three. Yeah, I mean it just looks so gorgeous. So and pretty much everything here you could really, and I use this advisedly, easily turn into a live wallpaper, which would look really cool. So from a UX perspective, you wouldn't have to change much.
How hard would it be if you just turn it into a live wallpaper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something you guys have on your roadmap as a possibility?
It's a possibility. The major concern that I had with it was battery life.
Sure. So that makes sense. Happily, live wallpapers don't chew up as much battery as you might think that they do, which is handy. And particularly because most of the battery chewing is going to come through network lookups. So I think if you're running as a live wallpaper, you just want to be aware that you don't have to do the weather lookups as frequently. So you want to try and reduce that as much as possible. Sort of even half daily is probably adequate.
Yeah, it's all tied into the service. It's an intent service, and if you have the widget on screen, you can actually set like the refresh intervals and stuff.
Right. Cool. And it looks like within your settings screen, you have exposed that update frequency settings for users to dial. And also, I've noticed a pretty interesting option, which is the last one, automatic crash reporting. Can you share a little bit information on how that was implemented? Are you using any third-party tools or?
Yeah, so we are using it's Android Crash Report. It looks like Arca, but it's not. But on top of that, we're using Bug Sense.
I see.
Okay.
So all of that feeds back into.
That's a great way for developers to get some feedback.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting actually. We were talking to Pocket Gems about this crash reporting stuff yesterday, and the approach they take is to try and ensure that the app continues to run even after you've had an exception. So you're capturing these crashes and you're reporting them back to the server, but trying to come up with some sort of sensible way to continue so that the app doesn't die. So I don't know if you guys are doing anything quite as fancy as that, but it might be something to consider. Cool. All right. So yeah, nice app. I think if we had something like a live wallpaper, then that might make it something just a little bit more interesting. That might make it something we could consider for featuring, or at least consider to pass on to the team which decide that. I think the issue which we would have is that it's a really crowded marketplace in terms of weather apps. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of apps which do a lot of really nice things, and so we're really looking for someone to cover all the bases in order to sort of be one of the very best in that category. So in terms of the look and the UX, I think it's great, and something like a live wallpaper might be enough to sort of
figure up a notch.
Push it that little bit further. So just something to consider.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Perfect.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks very much, and thanks for dialing in as well. We appreciate having the developers to talk to. It's So thanks very much. Okay, let's have a look at the next app on our list.
So what's next?
I think let's have a look at Handy Scanner.
Handy Scanner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to open it up here on my phone. So Handy Scanner is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's a scanner which you can use in your hand. It basically turns your phone into a PDF scanner, which is quite handy. You open it up here, and straight away you can see it's got a nice ICS style UX. we've got the action bar, no menu button of shame, yes. Normal menu button up the top here, which lets you go through and settings, about tutorial. They're all the right things to put in your overflow menu. When you first start the app, you get this tutorial flow.
That's a great implementation,
Which
in
is
my
nice.
opinion.
Yeah, I really like this. So this is quite good because it's simple, and it tells you exactly what it's going to do, and it shows you how much further you've got to go in that tutorial. And so by the end of it, you understand what the app is and you understand how to use it. And for an app like this, which is not necessarily the most intuitive, straight away as to what it is and how you use it, this is a really good way of doing that. So if we go back to the app, you can see we just swipe our way through, and it shows you all of the bits and pieces, so you know exactly what to expect and what you're able to do. So by the time you are in the app, you end up with what is quite a stark, empty UI, but you already know how to make it do things. So in fact, if I click here, it'll let me use the camera to scan in a document. I'm going to use your notes.
My cheat sheet.
I'm going to scan your cheat sheet. So if we put that under here, you can kind of see it. So this is the screen you get. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can actually take a photo. Let's have a look. Put a little bit more centered on the table. Photo. Okay. So if we go back, do this back, you can see, well, you probably can't see, the contrast isn't really good, but inside of the camera shutter here, it's got a number 1. So I can take multiple pictures for like 10 different pages on a given document. When I'm done, I hit done. And what you can see here, and this is quite clever, is it has detected the edges of my document. So it's just going to crop around those edges, which is really neat. So it's going to do this by default. I can change that size, and when I'm happy with that, I hit next, and there you go. And you can see it's just my document. It doesn't have the desk in the background, which is a really simple little thing, but it's actually makes it really useful. At this point, I can add effects. It's really nice, sort of a pop-up menu here, very similar to what the Gallery app does. Not intrusive, and lets me sort of go through and enhance and simplify that. Then I hit next, give it a name. Let's call it bread. And processes, and once we're done, we go back to the main menu. So I'm going to just jump that back into normal mode, and so then we can see sort of these thumbnails of each picture. And if I click on it, it zooms in, and cool. I can treat it as I would a normal sort of PDF document.
That's great.
Which is really nice. A really simple, really intuitive workflow.
Very functional. And
exactly, and you can see we've got all the buttons along the bottom which let us do things like edit, delete, turn it into a JPEG or a PDF. And if I choose either of those, so if I go PDF, it converts it to PDF and then lets me send it out through any of the sharing mechanisms which let you do an attachment. Which is neat. I really like that. Good intro, uses the action bar, nice styling, simple, easy to use. Nice use of the view pager as well. If we go back up to the main menu here, you can see that we've got sort of, these are all my documents that I can swipe across to start. I think there are on occasion other menus as well, but it's just really simple and intuitive. It flows really well. Let's have a look. So one comment that I did have, one thing I didn't love, is that the ads tend to get up in your business a little bit. So I don't mind them so much here on the navigation pages. I think that's fine and useful. But they're kind of on every page. So even like here, this feels like a step too much. So we have a banner up along the top of the content, sort of above what I've scanned in, and it's because what I'm trying to do is read the content that I have. This gets in a way in that it's not clear like what's part of the image, what's part of the banner. So that I feel is sort of a bit too much. And it's the same when I'm actually doing the acquisition, taking photos. Once I've take a photo first. As we go through this step as well, like again, we can kind of get the banner ads throughout the whole thing, and that, to me, that's just a step too far. It gets in the way. It's sort of, particularly here, it's taking up sort of 20% of my page, making it harder for me to read, harder for me to continue the workflow. So by all means, advertise within your apps, but try and think about where it makes sense and where it's actually providing a worse user experience. Right. You've got the tablet version.
Yeah,
now, right? So
we
look at
do
that.
have a tablet version. All right. So, it's very, similar to the phone version. It's got a pretty modern UI based on the various best practices that we've been advocating. It's got an action bar on top, navigation section up here, and a few menu items here. And here's the overflow menu. It's, pretty nicely done, similar to the phone version. And there are two fragments, right? One list view here on the left side and content view on the right-hand side. So I've just previously took a picture, in terms of functionality. It's similar to what Reto just described to us. There are various formats that you can convert to, like JPEGs and PDFs, and you can also upgrade to Pro. And let's have a look at what that does. It brings you to the paid version, I guess,
on Google Play. Yeah.
Yeah, so what's the additional feature? Let's find out.
I think it just removes the ads.
It removes the ads. Okay. All right.
So that's definitely one case where the functionality is the same. It's definitely something you want to consider using in-app billing as a way to remove those ads rather than pushing people out into the market.
Right.
Sort of that whole flow, as soon as you kick people out of your app into something else, it kind of disrupts the flow. It gives them more opportunities to change their mind and say, actually, that's not what I want.
Definitely.
So yeah, definitely consider building that in as an in-app purchase.
Right, right. I would imagine that's probably for legacy reasons that they probably launch it before. But I don't know. But if have a look at in-app purchase. My other comment is that on the upper right-hand corner, the two menu items, it's very clear to the users that, okay, for the first item, you can create a new document, and for the second item, you can create a new page, but they have the same icon design.
Yeah.
So you may, think about, how you can design different icons for the two different options. And if you flip to portrait,
you won't be able to.
Oh, I won't. Okay, but when I was unplugged, I was able to, when you're in portrait mode, these two, the text description disappeared, right? Leaving the two icons, I believe. I'm not 100% sure.
No, I think you're right. I think when you're in portrait mode, it'll cut those off to make it easy to see.
Exactly. Given the same icon design, it makes it impossible for users to discern which one is which without trying it out. So something for you to think about, and you have a very nice search feature as well.
Yeah, search works well.
Yeah. Well, all in all, it's a very functional application.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's got a lot going for it, and definitely something that we will be looking at more closely in terms of if it's something which we can suggest to the featuring committee. Because it looks nice. It looks really nice.
Great.
So, guys, sorry for intervening. I'm one of the developers of Andy Scanner.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. So, regarding in-app purchases, we considered it, and when we started the app, it's only like 3 months old, so it's not actually that old. And we saw some people who had a very high rate of failures using in-app purchases. So dealing with customer support, like restoring possible in-app purchases in the future, was kind of something that made us split between the free and the pro version. Also, there are some additional differences between the free and the pro version. Like we have some limit on the number of documents that you can have in the free version. It's actually a generous limit, like 20 documents. I think it's more actually. And the number of pictures that you could take in a row in a single camera session.
Right.
Other than that,
that's a pretty logical way to segment your different products.
Yeah, exactly. So
the people who you're asking to pay more money are the ones who are making a lot of use of the product.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we actually started doing it with lots of care in regards to quality. So in the Pro version, you actually get to process the full resolution of camera images. Well, in the free version, you actually get to do in half, which actually delivers pretty good results, but they are a bit better and sharper in the Pro version.
Cool. That's very reasonable, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing that you might want to do, though, particularly for things like the camera resolution, is make sure that that's clear somewhere within the free version when you're using it to say, hey, if this isn't, like maybe when people are zooming in and it gets to the point where you would notice the difference, to say, hey, the Pro version can give you a much higher resolution.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually, the only point where they can see that is in the description and in settings. So you get the option to actually pick high resolution, but it won't let you. So it will pop up some screen that allows you to buy the Pro version.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Cool, that's great. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, but like we say, it's a nice app. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for your review.
Yeah, thank you. No problem at all. Let's see, it's 41 past. We want to wrap up in a little under 5 minutes, so I think we're going to hold off on beautiful notes until next week. So apologies if the developer is online, but we're going to make you the first app that we look at next week. And we're going to finish off today by introducing a little app that is a little bit more than an app that one of our colleagues has put together. I'm going to rearrange the camera slightly so that we can try and make this happen. And I'm going to ask Fred to dance
press
while
the button.
that happens. Let's have a look. Oh, nice. There we go. Oops, other way. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, one of our colleagues, Paul Karff from
Karff.
Developer Relations,
Right.
took a big part in this project.
We did.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what it looks like. Grab this microphone so that I can...
Start dancing.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're looking at here is a kegerator powered by Android.